What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a whole bunch of new Green Digimon cards, finishing in a rather nice looking level 6. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got new Digimon, and I, for one, am very, very excited about it. And right off the bat, I should tell you that our translations here come from the lovely folks over at DigimonCard.dev and the lovely folks over at Ensan Gaming. So, with all of that borne in mind, let's start off taking a little bit of a look at Mushroomon. Now, some of these we're going to be able to go, honestly, pretty quickly through, because, well, we've got some of these which are, to put it politely, not the most exciting cards we've ever seen, if that doesn't sound too mean. A Mushroomon fits in here. It's a 2 cost to play normally, 0 cost to Digivolve, 3000 power, level 3. Well, we've gotten to the point now where it's not even worth naming all of the ones like this we've seen. Way back in Booster 1.0, which is where Green obviously made their debut, BT1 over in Japan, we had Goblimon. This is Goblimon. What is weird, we had Mushroomon as a vanilla in that set, and now Goblimon was a, 2 cost, and now we've just come full circle, mashed those cards together, hey, it's Mushroomon. If you still need some 2 cost to play level 3s, that is still cheap, it's fine, but we got a bunch of alternatives by this stage. Moving on, we got ourselves a Palamon, and this is not a vanilla Digimon. We got a 3 cost to play normally, 0 cost to Digivolve, 2000 power, and when you play, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, and add a card that contains plant or vegetation in its traits, and a card with fairy in its traits to your hand. And these are cards, again, that we've seen quite a lot in the past, and the rule here is really simple. If you're playing a bunch of cards that have plant, vegetation, and fairy, this is a phenomenal card that is going to give you really, really good consistency, and it's one that you should be very excited about and running to put into your deck. And if you're not, this is an absolute garbage card that is not worth the time of day, it's not worth the paper it's printed on, at least for you and your particular deck. So, that's what you've got to ask yourself. Obviously, in terms of plant, we've got stuff like your Palamon, a lot of the ones we're going to be looking at in this particular video. In terms of fairy, there are a bunch of yellow running around, but you've got stuff like Lilymon and Rosemon, Digimon like that are weirdly not plant Digimon. They are fairy Digimon, so it basically just kind of counts for all of them. Yeah, this is pretty cool, ladies and gentlemen. This is really good. Depends on your deck, like I say, but as long as you're playing that kind of deck that plays those kind of Digimon, this is absolutely phenomenal, and it's one that should very much be taking up a space in your deck. Moving on then, we can take a little bit of a look at Red Vegemon. This is a level 4, 3 cost to play normally, 1 cost to Digivolve, 3000 power. And the hook here very simply is, it's cheap. Simple as that. It's also Roachmon. It's literally Roachmon from BT4. Sure, it's got a different name and different art, but it's a green level 4 that's 3 cost to play normally, 1 cost to Digivolve, 3000 power. So, we've had Roachmon for a while, we're now looking at BT10. Roachmon was in BT4, so I don't really need to tell you about this card. You can tell yourself about this card. How much do you like Roachmon? If you like Roachmon and it finds a space in your deck, brilliant. You've now got 4 more copies of Roachmon that you can play. If you like Roachmon but hate the Digimon but like the card, brilliant. You've now got an alternative. But if you didn't like Roachmon before, you aren't going to like Roachmon now, even though it's got a different face and a different name. There we go. I think that sums it up quite nicely. We've also got Sunflowermon we can take a little bit of a look at here. Another level 4. 4 cost to play normally, 2 cost to Digivolve, 3000 power. 3000 power is very, very weak for a level 4. Now, admittedly, we just had that with Red Vegemon, but Red Vegemon was both cheap to play and cheap to Digivolve, so its very low power did make sense. Less so with Sunflowermon, unless we've got some absolutely rocking skills. Well, what we've got here is when you Digivolve, by suspending one of your green Digimon, you may play one Digimon card that contains plant, vegetation, or fairy in its traits, and has 3,000 power or less from your hand without paying its memory cost. And at this stage, yes! You're paying 2 cost to Digivolve, which is standard for a level 4. Green have a bunch of 1 cost Digivolvers, but 2 is standard. And now you're playing a card for free. And incidentally, this is where the low power of both Sunflowermon and indeed Red Vegemon become brilliant. Sure, you are putting yourself at the mercy of all of those Rookie Rush counters, although honestly, they're not as prevalent now because Rookie Rush is not as good as it used to be. But the honest answer is here that basically what we've got is a way to play very weak Fairy Plant or Vegetation Digimon for free. So playing very weak Fairy Plant or Vegetation Digimon, yes. And of course, look at the wording. It does not say on-play skills don't activate. So they absolutely do. So you could use this to play that Palamon and then get these cards to your hand. I love Sunflowermon. If you want to be playing this kind of deck, both Palamon and Sunflowermon are absolutely amazing. They're pretty gosh darn good. Also, as a fun little side note, these 3 cards we've just looked at, they all, in fact, 4 cards, including Mushroommon, they're all clearly from the same type of card. They're all Vegetation Digimon, and they've all been done, it looks like, by the same artist, which I think is a very, very nice touch. But then we can move on to our single level 5 to take a look at today before we finish with a couple level 6s. It is Cherrymon. 7 cost to play normally, 3 cost to Digivolve, 7,000 power, which incidentally is absolutely standard for level 5s. That is your classic level 5 stat line. And you've got Digisorption -2, which means you can suspend one of your other Digimon to reduce the memory cost by 2. And we know that sometimes suspending your Digimon can be good. There are skills that activate when you do that, which is quite nice. And we know that being able to have a 1 cost to Digivolve level 5 is great. Obviously, the downside here is that suspended Digimon can be attacked, whereas as a general rule, unsuspended Digimon can't. Although, there's ways around it, obviously, but just as a general rule. But we got a bunch of 1 cost to Digivolve level 4s. Having a 1 cost to Digivolve level 5, you are going to be able to get up to your level 6s very, very cheaply if you want to go down this route. Also, on your opponent's turn, once per turn, when your opponent's Digimon attacks, you may switch the target of the Digimon to one of your suspended Digimon. Now, this is phenomenal. It basically means you can choose any one of your Digimon to act as a blocker. And there's a few ways to do this. If you've got a good deletion skill, make your opponent delete a Digimon to activate the deletion skill. If you've got a Digimon that is more powerful than your opponent's, switch the attack to that so that your opponent's Digimon gets deleted, but yours survives. Or just sacrifice a Digimon to stop your opponent taking out a security card. Like, I'm not saying that's the best thing in the world, but I am saying if your opponent's about to take a key security card, which is going to probably end up losing you the game, or they're going to attack literally to win the game, and you can just go, I'll take out some random level 3 instead. Yes, this is brilliant. Do bear in mind it has to be one of your suspended Digimon, which is not terribly ideal. You got to make sure the right Digimon is suspended. And of course, your opponent can always just try going after that suspended Digimon early, try manipulating it. But my point is, this basically gives you a free, any of your Digimon can be a blocker once per turn, on a Digimon that only takes 1 memory to Digivolve up. I play an awful lot of green decks. This is definitely one I'm going to be testing around with. Cheap evolution, plus a super useful skill that could absolutely save your bacon. Count me in on this one. I really like this one. Now, moving over into level 6s, we've got one that's pretty exciting and one that's less exciting. The less exciting is Griffinmon here, because we've just got a vanilla Digimon. Doesn't do anything. 10 cost to play normally, 3 cost to Digivolve, 13,000 power. Now, the 3 cost to Digivolve is actually standard for a level 6, so you're not gaining anything there. But a 10 cost to play is on the low end, and 13,000 power is... it's pretty much as high as we see for level 6s. So actually, this has Megazoo written all over it. Megazoo is that deck whereby you basically just play a whole bunch of really big Digimon, and the goal is to hardcast them, so your opponent's always got to go through the big boys. And here that would work, Because you're also a dual colour green and yellow Digimon, I should mention that, that's pretty important. So all of a sudden here, I can play this in green, or I can play it in yellow. It's cheap to play normally, and it's very, very powerful. In a regular deck, it's no cheaper to Digivolve up, and there's plenty of 13,000 power Digimon out there, and there's plenty of really good skills. I don't like it. But if you're playing a kind of Megazoo deck where you really do want to be just hard casting these big level 6s, having a dual colour with 13,000 power, and you don't really get level 6s that are cheaper than 10 cost to play, so having a dual colour 13,000 power, it's a pretty niche use, I'll be honest with you. But in those situations, I could absolutely get on board with this. And that means that we are finishing off with one more level 6. We've got ourselves Lotosmon. Wonderful artwork, and as a side note, it is a rare, so that means I can try and find this as a pre-release promo, and you know what? I might try and find this as a pre-release promo. But what does it actually do? Well, in terms of your stats here, we are looking at 11 cost to play normally, 4 cost to Digivolve, 11,000 power, 11-3-11 is standard, 11-4-11 is, well, it's more expensive to Digivolve, honestly. But when you Digivolve, you get to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and that Digimon does not unsuspend during your opponent's next unsuspend phase. So basically, not only do you get to unsuspend them now, so that you can attack them or whatever, or stop them blocking, but you can then make sure that they can't attack next turn, because they're still going to be suspended. That's awesome. It's actually pretty reminiscent of the play skill of Puppetmon, although Puppetmon was suspend 1, none of them unsuspend during the next unsuspend phase, which was obviously like over the top ridiculously great. This isn't that good. This is not on the same level as that, but still being able to turn off one of your opponent's Digimon is pretty gosh darn good. Then on your opponent's turn, all of your other Digimon with a trait that contains plant, vegetation or fairy gain on deletion, gain 2 memory, and return a Digimon with 3,000 power or less from your trash to your hand. And now we go back to Mushroomon, that just so happens to be a 2-cost Digimon with 3,000 power or less, that has one of those traits as a vegetation Digimon. And this is why, when I mention Mushroomon, when I mention Red Vegemon, and I tell you, look, these are just the same as cards we've seen in the past, they are. In 99% of decks, they are exactly the same, just with different art, and you're choosing the best artwork. But then you get those rare exceptions, like here, where all of a sudden, because they've got a particular trait, they win. So to really look at this skill properly, it says all of your Digimon that have a trait that contains plant, vegetation, or fairy, when they get deleted, you gain 2 memory, and get a Digimon with 3,000 power or less from your trash to your hand. So obviously something like Mushroomon here is absolutely perfect, because it will gain that deletion skill, and it's played for 2 cost, and that's how much memory you gain, and it's got 3,000 power or less, so it can come back from your trash. That's the absolute perfect sweet spot. But there are others. Take Goblimon I mentioned earlier, or Argamon from BT2, or any of the other 2 cost to play 3,000 power Digimon. These don't gain the deletion skill, which is sad. But they've got 3,000 power, so they can be brought from your trash to your hand, and they can be played for 2 memory. So when one of your plant, vegetation, or fairy Digimon gets deleted, you can bring one of those back, because they've got less than 3,000 or 3,000 or less power, and then immediately play because you've just gained 2 memory. And you can swarm here. Ideally, we'd have like 10 Mushroomon, but unfortunately, we've got a bunch of plants. The Aruramon from BT3, the Floramon from Starter Deck 4, they are actually 2-cost plants, but they've got more than 3,000 power, so although they can gain the deletion skill and can be played for 2 memory, they can't be brought back from the trash, they're too powerful. And you got the stuff like Goblimon and Argamon that can be brought back from the trash and can be paid for 2 memory, but they don't gain the deletion skill. We don't have much of the sweet spot here, it really is just the Mushroomon, but I love the idea here that you can basically be swarming these Digimon, and it's awesome. Also, do bear in mind, Red Vegemon might be a free cost to play, but it's still going to have the deletion skill when Lotosmon is out, and it's still going to be able to be brought back from the trash. So you're going to have to pay one more memory, but it is a level 4, and that sounds alright by me, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds alright by me. I love this. This makes me super happy. I am going to be testing the bejesus out of this, and maybe it never ends up being good, and that's okay. It's got me pretty excited. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about all of this, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Digimon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.